Is it appropriate? No. But as a kid, you get some strange feelings. Is it right? No. But it's fucking awesome. And when Squirt makes that move, Squirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you definitely squirted.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower after Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we love when growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your three co-hosts, Roger Roeper, and alongside me are my two co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Gene Pickle Lyons.
Forever.
And each week we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. Each week the audience selects from 6 movie choices that we then break out a race car VHS tape rewinder and watch the movie that tallied the highest number of votes. At the end of each podcast, the three of us will provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and True Detective. That being said, Big D, we're still in the midst of our summer clearance garage sale, getting rid of all the commissions that have been built up over the past year. What movie are we doing today?
Well, like any good hoarder, even though we're clearing out the backlog, we got people, we're still stuffing stuff into the garage. So we got commissions coming for quite a while. And this week we had a commission from Valorie, and she wrote in and said, I grew up in a small town near Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, and baseball was a huge part of my life growing up. My dad was a coach, my brother played, and I played some, though I wasn't very good. We had a little baseball field near my neighborhood that my dad helped build, and I worked the concession stand during games. The Sandlot is nostalgic for me for many reasons, but I think mostly a childhood love of baseball and the feeling of being a kid, back when we actually spent the summers outdoor playing. That being said, The Sandlot is also a really well-made and fun movie, with classic lines, above-average child actors, and James Earl Jones is amazing. Thank you for taking the time to review my favorite movie. Love you guys in the podcast. Thanks for all you do. I hope you keep going forever. And that was from Valorie in Texas.
I don't think I've had more friends excited about us doing a title than The Sandlot. Everyone's like, oh my God, you're doing The Sandlot. That's awesome. I think that this is going to be one of those like major appeal pods that we do that gets, you know, a lot of traffic. So everybody be on your A game, because this one's going to count for a lot. Also, Valorie, thanks for commissioning it. Again, this is one of those that just surprises me that in over 100 movies, we never touched on The Sandlot. So it's long overdue.
Yeah, I'm still hoping. So we've done Pee-wee's. I'm just trying to like think back through the Shat catalog of like movies that we couldn't wait to get to. Like I think of like Predator. I think of Pee-wee's Big Adventure that you guys did with Carrie. Dumb and Dumber, we still have yet not to do. And then someone on Twitter really wants us to do the cartoon version, and I still stand by the best version of a Transformers movie, which is I think it's the 1989 animated class. Is it 89 or 86? It doesn't matter. It's still the best. So if someone has an extra $100, or maybe you want to, I'll throw in $20 to this. If we want to kind of group fund this, I definitely really want to do that animated movie because it's the best. But then I also think sometimes that even great movies don't make for great episodes of the podcast that we do here, because it's difficult to talk bad or shit on good movies. And I feel like Sandlot might fall into that category.
I don't think so. But let's not forget also the episode that everyone's been holding their breath for all this time, in over a year that we've been doing this podcast, is the one that Nick suggested, which was the best of Mickey Rourke. I know everyone's dying for that one.
Oh yeah. What is that? What are we doing? 9.5 weeks? Please tell me we're doing 9.5 weeks. Please do. The Sandlot is a 1993 American coming-of-age sports comedy film co-written, directed, and narrated by David Mickey Evans, which tells the story of a group of young baseball players during the summer of 1962 as stars. A cast of young actors alongside Dennis Leary and James Earl Jones. The filming locations were in Midvale, Salt Lake City, and Ogden, Utah. It grossed $33 million worldwide and has become a cult film. We always ask the question before we dive into the movie, what are your first memories? Where were you the first time you saw The Sandlot? We'll start with Eugene.
Well, guys, I didn't play baseball and actually didn't even understand baseball until I was 27 years old. But I did grow up in a single parent household. So every summer, I had lots of like adventures. Unlike other kids who got to stay home and go play baseball and hang out at the pool, I was always in either Taekwondo summer camp or YMCA summer camp. So at YMCA summer camp, The Sandlot was a regular favorite there. I didn't get what was going on from a baseball perspective. I was very much Smalls in that case, but I got the bond between the kids, and I really enjoyed that. But this for me was just like another version of Stand By Me, which is one of my all-time favorites.
So basically, were you like the kid at the YMCA summer camp that's over there like playing Battleship or like with his erector set or like building Legos? And you're like, I don't, guys, why are you watching The Sandlot again? What do you like about this movie?
Oh, no, I mean, I got sports. I like playing basketball and football. I like swimming and water polo. It was just, I didn't understand baseball. I think this is like pretty common with like urban kids that just didn't have fields to play on. Like, you know, you can't just go knocking a baseball like around town.
But Big D, you grew up in New York City. You grew up in an urban area. Did you connect with this movie?
You see, I did because of not baseball, but because of stickball. I played stickball all growing up because all you needed was a broom handle and a couple tennis balls. You could go out there and you could play it against the wall. You could make fields anywhere. And I played that all the way through when I went to college. We were in an adult league in New York, and we used to drive and play people in Brooklyn, Staten Island, and all the boroughs. It was a huge league. I think it was called the USSBL, the United States Stickball League. They had aluminum stickball bats. They sold stickball, like low felt tennis balls that you would hit with a torch. And dudes were throwing 90, 95. It was great. So that connected with me. But no, it's hard to have 9 friends to have gloves to go out there and find a field and play baseball. But as much as I loved baseball and I grew up loving the Yankees, this movie, I don't know why I didn't connect with me. You know, I was 19 at the time, but I've just always lumped it in with those other movies like Mr. Baseball, The Natural, Major League, Bull Durham, the ones that I love and admire as a baseball fan. The only one though I hate, and I hope we never review it, is Field of Dreams. Because to me, I don't know if it was because it was that Midwest farmer. Oh, build it, they will come. It didn't connect with me, but these other ones, I loved them.
That's crazy to hear because I feel like Kevin Costner is the godfather of baseball movies. Every baseball movie he makes is worth watching. But like you, Big D, grew up playing baseball, but more in this type of scenario. I also was I was an only child in a single family household until I was 6. And then my stepdad came into the picture. So I watched this movie with my dad, my biological father, because summers were spent with him either on a boat or in his house watching movies because I had nothing else to do. And dad was also like a prolific athlete growing up. So I remember going out and catching in the backyard with him, and he was a catcher. So naturally I was a catcher growing up playing baseball. And I know it sounds corny, but one summer night when we watched this movie together, I do remember kind of it being uncomfortable because growing up, my stepdad and I had kind of a strained relationship, kind of like Bill. And I remember my dad saying like, you know, does Kevin ever take you out playing baseball? I'm like, not really, Dad. Not really. And he's like, okay, that's cool. I don't know. It was kind of weird.
Did he ask if you called Kevin Dad?
He did ask. It was uncomfortable because I had a dad. And Gene, I know your mom never remarried, but like, how would you feel if like, cause Smalls is like what, 10 in this movie, 10, 11 years old. And even though his dad died at a young age, like if I had my mom forcing me to call some new guy dad, like how would you respond to that?
My mom went on one quasi date ever. So my dad's been dead now for 40 years. And my mom went out one time with a guy who had a grandkid who was on my mom's grandkids soccer team. So they went to the kids soccer game together. And I did not like it. I was very upset about it. And that was it. They went out that one time to the soccer game. Yeah. And when she came back, there was this portrait on the coffee table. It was my mom with like her hair all done up with like lipstick and a leather jacket and like a feather boa.
Sure.
And I was like, this guy dressed my mom up like a whore and took pictures of her, and she's putting it in the living room. What the fuck? Turns out I didn't know about glamour shots. This was like in 1990, like glamour shots were really big.
Sure. Yeah.
So anyway, sorry about that, Bob. Sorry. Anyway, it didn't work out.
Yeah. No. This is definitely a movie that hits home, I think, for all three of us. And now let's play the trailer and dive into this movie. Big D.
I know you're smart and I'm proud of you. I want you to make some friends this summer.
Meet Scottie Smalls.
Kale, get it! The kid is a L7 weenie. My life's over.
Man, this is baseball. You gotta stop thinking. You just have fun.
Climb trees, hop fences, get into trouble.
Just stand there and stick your glove out in the air. I'll take care of it.
Now he's in.
Yeah! All right!
With the coolest guys in the neighborhood. They've got the look.
Wendy Peffercorn. Wow. Hey, girls.
They've got the moves. They've got the rap.
Blockhead. Geek. Jerk. Idiot. Moron. You bob for apples in the toilet. And you like it. You play ball like a girl. I got it. Oh, no.
But something else has got their ball.
That wasn't my ball.
Dad's father gave it to him. Babe Ruth signed that ball.
Babe Ruth! We gotta get that ball back.
Got any bright ideas?
Initiate retrieval section number 1. Power connect. Come on, help me, it's heavy. Now. Fire! We gotta block! There he is! Mommy, look, a doggy. Ooh, a big doggy.
20th Century Fox presents
Hey, guys, it's the Sandlot babies.
You're the ones that making all that racket.
A Lifetime of Adventure.
Come on, Squints, you can do it. Pull through, bud. You little pervert.
The Sandlot. A little piece of paradise, a half a block wide, and a whole season long.
Scottie, have you made any friends yet?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mom.
In the summer of 1962, fifth grader Scottie Smalls moves with his parents into the San Fernando Valley, where he has difficulty making friends. He tries to join a group of boys who play baseball daily in a local sandlot, but is embarrassed by his inability to catch or throw the ball. An attempt to learn to play catch with his stepfather, Bill, results in a black eye. Nevertheless, he is invited to join the team by their leader and best player, Benny Franklin Rodriguez, who mentors him. When catcher Hamilton Ham Porter hits a home run into the backyard, Scottie attempts to retrieve the ball, but is stopped by the other boys who tell him of the Beast, a junkyard dog supposedly so large and so savage that it has become a neighborhood legend. Many baseballs hit into the yard over the years have all been claimed by the Beast, which is kept up chained by its owner, Mr. Myrtle.
So, guys, I mentioned that as a kid, I really liked this movie, even into my teen years. And it's honestly been about 20 years, I think, since I had seen it. I was really excited to watch it. And this is where I first started having my misgivings. I'm watching these kids. I remember them being so charming and so entertaining when I was a kid. And all I realized watching it as an adult is that child acting has come a long way since 1993. These kids all look like, you know, when you go to like Universal Studios and they have like the animal shows where the animal just does one thing they've been trained to do their whole life. Right. They all seem like they're acting to do the thing. Okay, everybody disappointed at once. Okay, we're all going to throw our gloves. We're all going to spit.
Which actor is it that compared working with child actors as the same as working with animal actors? Like, I think they said like they'd much rather work with a monkey than work with a child actor.
You definitely know that every action was scripted out. They're like, okay, now everybody at once, throw your gloves to the ground or spit. This writing, it feels like it was targeted toward 5-year-olds. And now as adults, we have movies that are layered, you know, even animated stuff. There's something for the adults, something for kids. This movie is squarely targeted at children. And it's that same tone that made me hate A Christmas Story. It's that just like overly wholesome, saccharine sweet, like corny American bullshit.
No, but I like the way that they have a kid that represents almost everybody. Yes, they're fringe kids, they're nerdy, they're dysfunctional, but they're still somewhat relatable. I, as a fat kid, I really loved the fact that Ham was a fat kid, but he was confident. He could go out there, he could rake, he was dropping bombs. He wasn't the butt of everybody's jokes. Yeah, they made some fat jokes, but the fact that he was a cool fat kid, to me, I wasn't a fat kid at that point, but to me, watching this now, I'm like, yeah, you go, Ham. I liked it. I don't think you needed a layered performance when there's a mystical beast of a fucking dog chasing a ball over a fence.
Yeah, so part of these type of movies is you see yourself in the character shoes. So Big D, you said that you identified with the great Hambino, right? The fat guy who was blowing kisses to the girls out by poolside. Gene, who did you identify with, like, of the characters? Like, who were you most like, oh, I want to be that character?
I mean, I don't want to steal Big D's, but I was also a chubby kid and kind of played off more personality than my looks as a boy. But if I had to pick somebody other than that, I'd probably say Bertrand, who just kind of he's there. He's like lanky and weird, and nobody really pays attention to him. But he ended up getting lost in the '60s, and that kid had a drug problem by the time he was 18.
Yeah, definitely.
Roger, you don't even need to tell us who you are. You don't even. I'm sorry. I love you. I really do. Okay. Now, I've known you now going on 15 years. I did not know you growing up as a kid.
Right.
It took about 3 minutes of Smalls on screen. I said, that's fucking Roger. I said, that's Roger. I said, I'm going to have to call Roger Smalls throughout the cast. He's out there pounding his glove. He's wearing his little khakis. He's having catch with stepdad. He's throwing it disappointingly straight into the ground. Stepdad Kevin, or, that's your stepdad, looking like, okay, just put the glove up there, Roger. Don't worry. You're going to get it. You're going to get it. And then finally, little Roger gets out there with the neighborhood kids, and he's going to have fun. And his mom says, hey, Roger, did you make any friends yet? This was so you. So you.
So every year, the U.S. men's soccer team goes to this thing called Camp Cupcake. So they get together, and it's like kind of the opening of their season. And so they'll have a squad come out to Southern California and play against them. Usually it'll be some team that's not too imposing from another country. And they do a thing that the day before the match where everybody goes out and plays soccer, and you can play against kind of like former U.S. players. So it's the fans and the players playing together. It's kind of a loosely organized, fun thing, right? Now, Roger and I go, and we could easily sign up to play, but we're like telling our friends, oh, you got to play. We got to get you some cleats, and you got to get you some shin guards. I've never played soccer before. Oh, no, it's cool. It's okay. It's going to be great. You don't even have to have any talent. You go ahead. Meanwhile, the two of us are like sitting in the stands with a cooler, head to toe in U.S. gear, like, yeah, fucking heckling other players. I think we're both Smalls.
Who are the Muppets in the two guys, the older kids?
Oh, it's like
the two old guys
and oh god,
who are the old guys? And anyway, that's who we were on that. But no, I did play one Camp Cupcake. I played
Statler and Waldorf. That's it. Thank you. I definitely played in one Camp Cupcake. I think when we were in San Diego, Landon Donovan showed up and played with us, and I did block a Landon Donovan. I mean, he was playing about 10% speed, but I did block one of his shots, and then I was like, that's it. I'm never playing in a Camp Cupcake again.
So the way, I don't know if people know this, the way that Roger and I met, when I moved to Orlando, I played softball fairly competitively my whole life. I said, after stickball. So my wife met Roger at work and said, hey, this guy at work is putting together a team. He's, looking for guys. So I call up Roger, and Roger breaks into his Smalls, like he's recruiting for a team. He's like, okay. So how would your friends describe you on the teams? Where did you play?
True.
What position?
You're perverting.
Hold on.
You're creating another narrative in your head. You're creating an alternate universe.
Did you send out a survey that had those questions to men you would meet?
You.
Did you send that survey out to people you met?
But that has nothing to do with our softball team.
You sent that.
You just wanted to know more about men?
Yeah, okay. I was doing a study.
So he would interview people that he met online to try to build his team. So I go out and play with him, and I was competitive. And the first game I think I played with him, his team was called the Ball Busters. And I wanted to win. I wasn't out there to have fun. I wanted to compete. And Roger was like, okay, everybody, after our practice, let's go run some suicides. Let's go run the bases. And I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? So I play the first game. I'm playing first base. The right fielder, he is Smalls. He's not very good. And I said, listen, Roger, you got to get that guy to right field. He's killing us. He goes, no. He goes, that's Michael Fay. He's in 1994, the American kid in Singapore who got caught vandalizing, got caned. That's him. He goes, just kind of cut him some slack.
Oh, shit.
So I yell right field. I said, hey, Fay, catch the fucking ball. He ends up walking off the field and goes, I don't need this. I don't need people yelling at me. I came out here to do my best. And he never came back again.
Yeah, so so in Kissimmee, you have to understand that was like our version of the Sandlot. Like we had ball players that were paid professionally. It was the most I think we might have talked about this before on the podcast. I don't know if we have. We might have run out of things to talk about, but this particular league that we lived like right down the street from, it's not like your neighborhood, grab a 6-pack of beer, people drink, on first base and everyone's lollygagging. This is like people are showing up with shaved bats. People are wearing masks on the mound. It is legit softball. And our Ballbusters team was playing in like the lowest levels. And it was just kind of a friendly thing. But then, the competitive spirit catches you and you're like, well, I want to start winning. And we were in our league championship when I bring out the 6'7", first baseman who's going to carry us to the championship. He's our own Hambino, Big D, Dick Ebert. And his first 2 at-bats, I'm like, dude, I'm putting you clean up. You're ready to go. His first 2 at-bats, dribblers to the mound.
That's
like
true.
Dribblers. He went 0 for 3 his debut. And then we still somehow made it to the championship. And then he eventually calmed down and Big D was one of the best softball players I've ever played with. I mean, just everything was just, he had one swing and it was a home run every single time.
But and I don't want this to devolve into softball talk, with Roger and Dick, but anybody out there who plays softball, we played in a league with all the Resmondo guys, all the professional USA team guys.
People with names on their bats that they were fucking playing.
The guys who would come out like Andy Purcell and Jeff Wallace. These guys have their own bats. You'd come out and you'd play. So this wasn't a normal rec league.
Yeah, this was insane.
I've won a couple worlds. I've played fairly competitively. Not anymore, just because once you have a kid, you can't. But those days playing on the Osceola County softball field with Roger, that was our Sandlot, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the one thing that I will say that I was pretty decent at was recruiting players. We got not only great players, but they were great guys, and they're doctors now, police officers and detectives and stuff like that. And it's kind of cool to see the evolution of it just popped up in my news feed on Facebook today, in 2009, all sitting together at Applebee's or whatever crap afterwards.
So the big recruiter in this movie for the Sandlot team is Benny the Jet. And he's really encouraging Smalls to join the team. And when you start the movie out, you think that Smalls is going to be the hero, and he certainly is the narrator for the movie. But Benny ends up really being the one who is the legend, right? And one of the things he does is shows extreme kindness toward this new kid. When all the other kids are bagging on Smalls, Benny's there with a heart of gold, which I found out made a lot of girls at that time crush on this dude hard.
Totally.
I didn't realize that he was a big heartthrob back in the day.
Also, he's attractive. If Ham is doing this,
kid.
He's no one likes the fat kid,
Yeah, he's got good eyelashes on him.
Yeah.
But the one thing I'm curious about is when we see that Smalls doesn't have a glove, Benny reaches in the back of his pants and he pulls out a glove, and I'm like, that's curious that he just carries an extra glove in his pants, but whatever. A little while later, we see that Smalls has a shitty hat that Benny tells him to burn. And what does Benny do? He reaches his pants, he pulls out a hat too. And I'm like, this guy's like a fucking Latino Captain Caveman here. He's just grabbing random shit. I'm like, does he have a bat in there? What else does he have in his pants? And also, if somebody offered me a hat that they'd been wearing down their pants for an entire baseball game, no way I'm putting that on my head. Smalls just like, yep, this is great. Hey, Mom.
He's having it in his prison pocket back there. But yeah, this is Like, and he would like smell it at least at first. Like that, there's a missed opportunity for a joke there. Definitely in that scene. Like he could have like, kind of smelled it at first and kind of like reluctantly put it on his head. He's like, all right, you're in. Like Benny could have been like this like overexcited guy to give away all of his like pants items and stuff like that. Or do you think like Benny gets off on this? Like he's like, I'm going to give all the new kids like all my shitty hats, literally, because they've been next to my ass for the last 7 scrimmages over at the Sandlot.
Yeah, he's like hazing Smalls the worst, and Smalls doesn't even get it. He's like, this is the glove that I ejaculate like, into every night.
They really like me.
Yeah. I wonder what else Benny has in his pants, though. Like, just fucking his parents, his dead parents are in there.
Which makes no sense why they're always looking for balls. Because you would imagine Benny just be like, oh, he just reach into his, back pocket and fucking pull out another ball.
Yeah, maybe instead of spending $9 on the fucking tilt-a-whirl, you could buy 9 baseballs. If you're really that dedicated to the game, Benny.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's also at this point that you realize that the movie is nostalgia porn for white men. Like it's everything. It's the 1960s soundtrack. It's baseball, unorganized out at a neighborhood shitty lot. It's got a big dog in it. It's the name of this movie again should have been Steven Spielberg presents Stand By Me with Your Baseball Glove. I think men over the age of 40 get harder watching The Sandlot than they do, Brazzers Bang Bus 5.
If you guys watch like a history of Madonna's music videos, I noticed a really interesting thing happening in the early 90s. So this wasn't just The Sandlot. Everybody in the early 90s was doing like this 50s and 60s throwback thing. It was like just a normal thing that they would do where everybody was obsessed with like the Marilyn Monroe haircuts and the old like Chevy Bel Airs and stuff. So it's definitely indicative of a time in our history in the early 90s where we were very, very nostalgic for the 50s and 60s.
But you got to think, though, yes, this movie speaks to the suburban kid, middle America, working class family. But that's why there's other movies that don't. Like for me, Field of Dreams doesn't, because that farming aspect I couldn't relate to. Some that are maybe more inner city related, you can. So everybody's got their own version of this. But I think one thing you can share, because that time when Madonna was into it in the 80s, the music was a key component that everybody was reminiscing. And that nostalgia component of this movie, I think they nail it. I couldn't think of a movie that made me want to go out and listen to the soundtrack more than like Stand By Me. So I went and brought it up on Spotify. I think the selections were tight. I think they really invoked that 60s American coming of age feeling. And yeah, it's a bit over the top and on the mark, some of the selections that they choose to pair with scenes. But when you get stuff like Finger Poppin' Time, when you hear the song, you know it. You get The Lion Sleeps Tonight, There Goes My Baby, This Magic Moment, America the Beautiful with Ray Charles, or Tequila. These songs make you feel like you're in the time, and I loved them. I really felt like I was back there and reminiscing.
Yeah, but for as great as the song selection is, and I will agree with you that the Ray Charles version of America the Beautiful, that's the best version, in my opinion, of that, as well as the original Tequila. And they come at, fun parts of the movie. And this is a fairy tale. And my gripe with the music in this movie not comes with the song selection, but with the soundtrack or the overlay. They're using like guitar strings, like almost like Seinfeld, like when there's a joke that's supposed to happen. And you're like, oh, like only if it was a little bit better. Smalls made a joke.
Well, I don't want this to take us off on a huge tangent, but I just want to ask, I did not grow up in the 60s, but to me...
Are you sure?
I feel like it lately. To me, the 60s, the music of this era, it felt like there was a craftsmanship to it that we're missing today. They were actual artists, and even though everything is more, it's vanilla, it's PG, there was something about the music at this time that I think we're missing today.
I just want to point out that a year after this, Pulp Fiction came out and had a much more kick-ass soundtrack borrowed from the 60s, but was way fucking better. No, I mean, I agree with you that there was a greater craftsmanship there. There's a chart where they've been charting basically pop music over the years to see when the most different types of rhythm, different sounds, and different instruments were being used. And the 60s was really the apex of that. It drifted down rapidly after that into now where it's just a very, very small spectrum of sounds, rhythms, and instruments being used. So I agree with you there. But these soundtrack picks to me were obvious picks. There was nothing sneaky about it. And that's what I really liked about Tarantino, is where he would pull stuff that you'd never heard before, but was also equally evocative.
Yeah. Well, one hot day, the boys visit the community pool. Michael Squints Palidorus has a crush on lifeguard Wendy Peffercorn and fakes drowning in order to administer her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. The Sandlot team is banned then from the pool, but Squints' reputation is boosted. On the 4th of July, the team plays a night game by the light of the fireworks, and Scottie observes, although to the rest of the team, baseball is just a game, it is Benny's true passion. And later they are challenged to play a rival Little League team who they handily defeat. To celebrate, they visit a fair where they try chewing tobacco and ride a spinning carnival ride. The combination causes them to vomit all over themselves and others.
All right. Social justice warrior alert, guys. I got to say this. This scene, the pool scene, really bothered me. Like, Squints should be ostracized from the group instead of being like the cool guy. I would have liked this movie a lot more if Wendy Peffercorn put him on his back and like crushed his chest with compressions. Like, did it bother anyone else that he essentially sexually assaulted a woman? Then she smiles about it. This is just like in Videodrome. This is teaching kids that this is acceptable behavior and women will like it.
That's what got me. I was like, Gene's gonna have something, and it's not that the intent of the movie is bad, right? The intent is supposed to be innocent, and it's kids, and like, you know, there's a childhood innocence in that. But nowadays, you're right. This kid would probably be sued, right? And so, is that good for society or is that bad for society?
Okay, Gene, I'm gonna say this to you first. You're fucking crazy, okay? I agree with you normally. I had a problem with the rape scene at the end of Revenge of the Nerds. That's too much for me. This, can you say there's an innocence to it? Yes. He didn't slide his hand up her dress. He didn't grab her breast. He's laying there. There's an innocence to it. You know what? Is it appropriate? No. But as a kid, you get some strange feelings. Is it right? No, but it's fucking awesome. And when Squirt makes that move, Squirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he definitely squirted.
When Squints makes that move, okay, it's iconic. The camera slows down. The music kicks in, this magic moment. He smiles. It's heavy-handed, but it's fucking awesome. And I'm not going to put him on a sex offenders list just because he did this. I liked it.
Yeah, but like, all right, think about like when you're 10, 11, you're this time in your life. What kind of maneuvers would you do to scam some pool honeys? Like, what's the most desperate thing you've done to get a young lady to kiss you?
Well, I mean, I certainly didn't jump into a pool, risk drowning. And then this actor, this is not a joke. The director had to actually give the actor direction not to put his tongue in her mouth during this scene.
Yeah,
because the little shit was trying to get fucking freaky with her. Like, here's the problem. Here's the problem that I have with it is that it's not that he did it, and then if they would have reprimanded him, and then she like fucking never talked to him again, that'd be one thing. She ends up marrying him. This movie was so effective, and then they have 9 kids. So they're like, hey kids, if you fool a chick into kissing you by risking your life, making her jump off her lifeguard tower, jump in there and save your ass. Then she will bang you a bunch of times and you'll get married.
Now, how much older? What's the age disparity between Wendy Peffercorn and Squints?
It's probably like 6 or 7 years. I don't think
it's like 6, so it's not that bad. Okay, because I always had a thing for older women, and I think maybe it was because of movies like this.
Exactly, Raj. And I don't care if I lose some fucking people who like me. Fortune benefits the bold. Okay, I'm not saying that you should go over the line into inappropriate, but as a kid, if you were that quiet kid, you didn't get any further. You got to get noticed. It's a competition. I'm not saying force your tongue down people's throats, but as a kid, fuck yeah, I respect him for making the effort. If she had slapped him, great. He got banned from the pool. It's good.
Yeah, there were repercussions.
Yeah, here's another thing he could have tried: talking to her ever.
Oh, fuck! He could have written her a poem.
So, Gene, you had a problem with the way that Squint went about finding his Wendy Peffercorn. Did you have a problem with any of the other characters and the way that they were scamming on pool honeys?
No, the rest of it was fine. I mean, Ham, I thought his approach was exactly perfect. He came by, he like waved, did a little flex for him, and did a cannonball. So that's like playful.
It's charming,
but not rapey. Yeah, it's not like he did a cannonball into their bodies. So
no, it's not I'm sorry, I fell over. Oh, I fell over again.
But Ham, I mean, I'm not alone in this, I'm sure, in enjoying the Ham Porter character. I think he's like kind of the standout character everybody quotes and is really like the s'mores scene, the "You're killing me, Smalls." He's on all the t-shirts, right? And I was a little resistant to this character at first. So like, oh, it's the fat kid, whatever. But he really grew on me as the movie went on, in particular when he did that cliche thing of talking shit while playing catcher. Like, the kid pulled it off really well. The lines weren't that good, but he really sold it.
Yeah, the thing that I really like about this movie is while the movie centers around the sport of baseball, they don't really make even this scene when they're playing like the rich kids from the neighborhood playing on their field. They really don't make it about that.
No, and that's what shocked me the most. I thought this was all baseball. I thought when they first challenged the team of the rich kids to play the game, I was like, okay, what's going to happen? Is Benny going to get hurt? And then the rest of the team's going to have to rally around him, and Smalls is going to make a big diving play in the outfield. No, fucking baseball isn't even the main crux of the movie. It's less a baseball movie. It's more like a kid's movie buffet, right? It's everything that you loved as a kid, right? You got some sports. We got some adventure. Right. There's a treasure we got to go after. There's some mystical monster. Everybody's got to come together like the A-team. We got to like build something to accomplish a mission. This was like everything all together. It was everything you'd like as a kid. And I thought not so much baseball was actually an addition to this movie.
Yeah. Now, one of the favorite scenes, one of the most memorable scenes in the movie is when they do go to the fair, and to emulate their big league heroes, someone sneaks in, what is it, Big Chief chewing tobacco, some chaw?
Yeah, I think it's my boy Bertrand. And what's interesting about this scene is if you've never chewed tobacco, this isn't as funny as if you have chewed tobacco. I chewed tobacco once. So my roommate back in the day, Justin, and we were getting ready for the series finale of Deadwood. And so we went to the store and we bought dip and whiskey, and we'd never chewed tobacco before. And I had no idea how potent this stuff was. So I'd smoked cigarettes from age like 14 to 22. So I was like, oh, it can't be that much difference in nicotine high. No, it's a different fucking game. Like, chewing tobacco puts you on another planet. I put it in my mouth. My heart was racing. My head was spinning. I was vomiting everywhere. Justin was doing the same. And so imagining that plus, a tilt-a-whirl, a ride, these kids are fucking sick.
Yeah. So have you, Big D, have you chewed? Have you put in a lipper?
No.
Have you? No. Okay.
No, but a friend of mine got me into it. It's so fucking stupid. I don't do it all the time, but nicotine gum. I don't smoke, but it's almost like a cup of coffee or like a 5-hour energy. But I did playing softball a couple years back. My buddy's like, hey, you got some gum? And I said, yeah, here, I got a piece of gum for you. I didn't give him a heads up. Yeah, it was Brian Primo. It was Little Primo.
Oh, Little Primo.
Little Primo. So he's out there running around. He's like, oh, this is there's some good gum. What is this? What is this? This is kind of tingling. An inning later, he goes, oh, what is that? He goes, my head's kind of spinning here. I don't feel so good. I said, oh, it was nicotine gum. He goes, oh, you motherfucker, what are you doing?
Oh,
he ended up having to sit down. So yeah, maybe I should have told him. That wasn't very nice.
Poor guy spent like 20 years trying to quit smoking. Finally got clean.
Yeah, I've never done chewing tobacco. I find it disgusting. My dad was a smoker, and I never liked that. I'll smoke, marijuana occasionally, but I don't know. There's just something about it that's gross to me. And I think the grossest thing about chewing tobacco is the plastic water bottle cup that you have to have, and you're just spitting into it. It's just gross. It's just, I don't find the allure. But what I did find going over the top in this movie is the whole 4th of July night baseball scene. Like, how good in the Valley Vista, California, how much money do they have on fireworks to put on a display like this?
Well, that's why this movie is a perfect choice, because this comes out 4th of July. So this scene is perfect. It's a little ridiculous, but it spoke to me as that kid in suburban community. I don't know how you guys are, because you had very different childhood, so I'm eager to hear about it. In New York, there's a sense of community that even in Florida we don't have. There were potlucks. You'd close the street off and have all the families come out, put the tables out, these block parties, these cookouts. There was community fireworks. Everybody in the neighborhood would be riding their bikes around. It happened as a kid growing up. So as I'm watching this, I'm feeling the nostalgia porn, like you said. And Ray Charles comes on with America the Beautiful, that great rendition. I'm getting goosebumps. I'm like, fuck, I can't believe I'm getting goosebumps. What the hell's going on? But in all my cookouts and block parties, we never had this many fireworks. This was a little over the top.
Yeah.
But did you guys have this kind of experience growing up around, the 4th of July holiday?
So growing up in Arizona in the 80s especially, there weren't a lot of people here. It's before everyone decided that this was the place to be, and so Arizona was fairly sparsely populated. So it was we'd all hop in the car and just go out to the reservation, actually. So we got a lot of Indian reservations in the Phoenix area, and the res was great because it was all clear. There were no people around, and you could see the fireworks, which is I think why I enjoy 4th of July's with small groups. Like I hate going into like the big crowd fighting through like traffic and fighting through a crowd to see fireworks. Like they're in the fucking sky.
Yeah.
I don't need to be in a set place. So, but Big D, my favorite 4th of July is actually we're in New York City at Parker Towers in Queens because we could just watch them from the balcony. And that was the fucking most amazing because the fireworks are right at eye level. And you could just see all around the city, 180-degree view of just fireworks going off everywhere. Those are being on the rooftop sometimes. Some of my friends in Brooklyn, you could go on the rooftop and watch. And to me, that's the best thing to do is be in a small group on top of something really tall and watching them from there.
Well, one day, Benny hits the team's only baseball so hard it knocks the cover off, and with Bill away on business, Scottie borrows a baseball from his trophy room that is autographed by legendary player Babe Ruth. Being ignorant of baseball history, Scott does not realize the ball's value and hits his first home run, sending it into the base yard. When the other boys learn of the autograph, they tell Scottie its value and make several attempts to get the ball out of the yard using makeshift retrieval devices, but each is destroyed by the beast. Benny then has a dream in which the spirit of Babe Ruth advises him to retrieve the ball himself, and that will be the moment that makes him a legend.
So as I'm watching this movie, I'm like, you mean to tell me that Scottie Smalls, this kid living in the 1960s,
Right,
does not know who Babe Ruth is?
Mm-hmm.
And then a few minutes later, I'm watching the movie, and Babe Ruth, the ghost of Babe Ruth or Dream Babe Ruth, tells Benny the Jet, he's like, oh, who's this Henry Aaron baseball card? I don't know why, but I think I want to keep this. And I'm like, Henry Aaron. That's a really familiar name. I'm like, oh, that must be Hank Aaron. What's special about Hank Aaron? So I had to go look it up.
Shut up.
I'm like, oh, I get it. Hank Aaron went on to break Babe Ruth's all-time home run record. That's why the Babe wants the baseball card. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I don't believe this. So you didn't know who Hank Aaron was?
No, I knew who Hank Aaron was. I mean, I'd seen him around with Barry Bonds. Like,
Okay.
I knew that he was a famous baseball player. I didn't realize that he broke Babe Ruth's home run record.
Roger, he didn't know his name was Henry. He knew Hank Aaron, but not Henry Aaron.
Yeah.
You're like Smalls, the big Bambino. That's the same guy. It's this girl. Ruth, Babe Ruth. Come on, it's ridiculous. Okay, he's got this strained relationship with his stepdad.
Sure.
Bill doesn't like to talk to him. The one thing that Bill won't shut the fuck up about is baseball, the Yankees, and Babe Ruth. The fact that Smalls doesn't, soak it up means maybe he's not making an effort to get to know Bill.
Yeah, but this is why I'm so afraid to date women with children is the stepdad experience. It's like, what do I do? Not only like, how do I relate to this kid who I'm not really like his father, but I want to be a good example and not feel uncomfortable hanging out with his mom and kissing his mom and stuff like that. Also, what am I going to do with all my collections? Because I've got a lot of vinyl characters and tchotchke bullshit. And anytime a young child has come over to my house and gone into my office, that's the first thing that they want to go for. And it makes me so nervous and I get so anxious and I'm filled with anxiety.
But Big D, correct me if I'm wrong. I've been told that when you have a child and you're raising a child, you get to experience all that stuff over again. It's like seeing it through new eyes, right? That you're being re-exposed to the thing, and all the wonder of the things that you loved as a child comes back to you. So Roger would actually enhance your collection.
No, it definitely won't. Here's the reason. Roger would not feel that excitement because he has oh, don't touch my Rick and Morty collector Comic-Con version 50 glow in the dark, fucking whatever. The kids would come in and be like, hey, can we play Daddy Roger? Can we play? And he'd be like, no, fuck you. This is a collector. Don't touch my Lego DeLorean. You have to be able to be willing to bond with the child. And Roger hates children. I don't hate children. Opening up emotionally.
I do hate opening up emotionally.
Combining that with sharing his toy collection, caring about a child, and then starting to love, that's too much for him.
Yeah, but it was more than just like his adverse experience and like not wanting Smalls to touch his collection or go into his office. I also felt like there was also like this weird dynamic where maybe like, did you guys get this? Like Bill is kind of abusing Smalls' mom.
No, I didn't get that at all. In fact, I thought the relationship was really interesting. By the way, just want to point out that the mom is played by Karen Allen, which we didn't mention at the top of the show.
She looks really good.
Yeah, super babe from Indiana Jones. Yeah. But she is encouraging Smalls to talk to him because I think Smalls is intimidated by Bill. And she's like, no, Bill's not a bad guy. Like, you just got to be direct with him. Like, that's just how you communicate with the guy. Because she's definitely not afraid to just be like, hey, she would not be encouraging her child to directly confront this guy if this guy was a threat at all.
Yeah, but why? All right, why is Bill? I've got a few questions. Why is Bill always going away on business? Why is he always like not making time for him?
Job.
Why is he always like, I don't really want to go play catch with your fucking 10-year-old nerd son? Like, I feel like Bill doesn't want this guy around. Like, he's like trying to impregnate Smalls' mom so that he can focus on that child and not pay any attention to Smalls whatsoever. Like, I feel like that's what's going on. And that's why, like, they just leave Smalls at home while he goes away. The mom is in the car with him. Like, what? Who's watching Smalls while he goes away for a week on the trip? No wonder Smalls is like weak and timid and like afraid to make friends, is because, you know, his mom is being emotionally abused by his stepdad.
Yeah, but counterpoint, Bill, when Smalls gets hit in the eye, what's the first thing he does? He goes and takes a steak out of the fridge. He's so concerned with the kid's welfare. He's like, put that on your eye, hold it there. If he didn't give a shit about the kid, he'd be like, well, fuck it, your eye's going to swell up. And then later in the movie, you see that they're like getting along. They're playing catch together. He's having a good time. He's not a bad guy. He's just Dennis Leary. Kids are just afraid of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be hard though to raise somebody else's child.
Oh, Big D, I can't wait till you guys get divorced and Emma has a stepdad.
Wow, that's such a sweet thing for you to say. Such a sweet thing for you to say, you motherfucker.
Kidding. I'm just kidding. But like, what would you do? What would you do if you, like, worst case scenario, Emma gets a stepdad? How would you react?
Oh, I don't even want to think about that. That having someone else raise your child has got to be the worst thing, or being like,
I don't think it's the worst thing. It is. Bullshit. Coming from experience, it's not the worst thing.
Bullshit. Adding a new partner, because when you have a child with your spouse, the two of you are co-parenting. To add fucking Bill into the equation, and Bill tells me, hey, Big D, I really don't think it's appropriate, for young Big D. I'd be like, fuck you, Bill. Stay in your lane.
After Caitlin and I split up, we were talking about getting June some training.
Yeah.
And June is my dog, by the way. And we're talking about getting her some training. And she was like, yeah, I looked into it. There's this guy, Matt. And I was like, nope. Do not let that guy anywhere near the fucking dog. She's like, well, he just says that she's uncomfortable with the new environment. I'm like, fuck Matt. What does Matt know about the environment?
Yeah. So when I adopted Albert and Pippa, my two dogs, with the girlfriend who I moved out to Arizona with, Janine, and we were together for 5 years. And when we split up, she said, I want the bed. And I said, fine, I want the dogs. So I got the dogs. And while Janine lived in Arizona, when I would travel away for business, the dogs would stay with her. And we had a very nice co-parenting situation there. And then she moved away and I started dating my last girlfriend, Megan. And when Megan and I split in December, for the first few months after the split, she would watch the dogs. And recently, in the beginning of May, I discovered she was dating someone else, another guy, a guy named Brian. Fuck you, Brian. And he, like at that point, like I had to make the decision. I'm like, well, I'm not going to let my dogs go over and hang out with Megan because I don't want them around some new guy. I don't want Albert and Pippa laying in the lap of some dude that's banging my ex-girlfriend. Like, I just don't want that to happen. And I feel like that's how I would respond if I had a kid.
But yeah, Big D, having another guy raise your kid isn't a bad thing at all.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing.
Like again, I feel like it would be a hard thing. I can't even do it with my dogs.
Logic.
Yeah,
I know.
You just countered yourself. You realize that, right?
I do realize that. I'm a mixed bag of emotions, and this is why I can't open up emotionally.
The little fucking crotch monsters fucking, nuzzling up against fucking Brian's balls.
I don't want them nuzzling. I don't want them smelling. But like, is this movie sponsored by Vlasic? I feel like there's so many mention of pickles. There's a lost opportunity here. We've really got ourselves in a pickle.
That's a smooth exit. This is the same complaint I had about A Christmas Story. They just find a thing they like to say, and they just keep saying the phrase over and over again.
Right,
a major award. He's in a real pickle. Fuck it. Stop that.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Benny goes over the fence and pickles the beast to retrieve the ball, but the English Mastiff breaks its chain and leaps over the fence in pursuit. It chases Benny through town, resulting in several comedic situations, and eventually back into the Sandlot. Benny jumps back into Mr. Myrtle's yard, but the beast crashes through the fence, which falls on top of it.
Social justice warrior. All right. Hercules is so mistreated in this movie. It was pissing me off.
I agree.
His Mr. Myrtle leaves him outside, chained to a spike on like hot days where the kids can't even play baseball. No socialization, no walks. He's not even neutered. And I know it's period appropriate. Like people treated dogs like this in the 60s, but I feel fucking terrible for this dog. I'm like, will someone go rescue him, please?
Yeah, I totally felt the same way. Like the dog chase scene is a bit long in the tooth, and like the comedic aspect of it all, like where they're going through the Founders Day parade party, and like the two guys carrying the cake are like, whoa, and then whoa, and then oh, we're safe, and then oh no, here comes something else, and then it's gonna fall on our, like, it's such like superficial, shitty Midwest, saccharine sweet scene that it just, I was like, oh, this is so bad. Then, to make matters worse, at the fucking end of the scene, the fence falls on the dog, and I'm like, the best fucking character, the one that I relate to, the one that I feel emotionally attached to, is fucking sitting there and he's crying, right? And he was a lonely dog. He was left out there to his own devices, and yet somehow, is nice and just wants someone to play with. And I felt like that was me as a kid.
I'm sorry that the fucking dog was misunderstood by children. Okay, he's foaming at the fucking mouth, and yes, he's not treated well. But I love that Gene, in his breakdown about how mistreated this poor dog was, he says he's not even neutered. So Gene's focusing on the testicles of the dog as he's running through the scene. I think that's sweet.
To be fair, they were big testicles.
But I loved the Beast backstory, the black and white background of how Beast's story has grown. And it's clearly told from a kid's perspective. And it makes sense. The kids believe this urban legend. Shit, he was a junkyard guard dog. He probably killed someone. He was fed sides of beef. It all makes sense. And why they're afraid of him makes sense. But yes, the fence falls on him, poor dog. They immediately, though, lift it off. Yeah. And they're befriended and everything's good again. But I would be afraid of that fucking dog if I didn't know.
I will say that the movie did a very effective job from a visual perspective, explaining to the audience that it was just all in their heads. And then I like the kids when they slap, who was it? Squints, right? Squints is the one telling the story.
Yeah, it's Squints.
Yeah. They all like throw their baseball gloves at him when Mr. Myrtle says, you could have just knocked on the door. You know what I mean? So I really found that endearing, and I'm glad that the dog wasn't injured, because I couldn't have taken it if it was like that. Well, Benny and Scott do lift the fence to free the beast, who shows gratitude by leading them to a stash of its baseballs. They meet Mr. Myrtle, who turns out to be a former baseball player who played with Babe Ruth but went blind after being struck by a baseball. He kindly trades the chewed up ball for one autographed by all of the 1927 New York Yankees, and Scottie then gives this ball to his stepdad, Bill, and their father and son relationship improves. The boys continue to play baseball on the Sandlot with the beast, whose real name is Hercules, as their mascot.
Raj, you mentioned that this movie was nostalgic white man porn, and I think this revisionist history highlights that 100%. Point beautifully. First of all, James Earl Jones, he plays blind pretty well. He's done it in a couple different roles, and I really like him as an actor. I think he's one of the greats of all time, from Conan the Barbarian to Coming to America. I really wanted to see this, though, reshot with, instead of it being James Earl Jones, have Mr. Myrtle played by Samuel L. Jackson or Christopher Walken. Just a little creepier, a dude, where the kid's like, I don't know if I want to go in there at all.
Like a racist Christopher Walken doing like his Batman villain situation.
Yeah, you got past Hercules. That's a big fucking dog. Something like that. But that being said, I did get goosebumps when they showed that photo of Myrtle with the babe, like the black and white photo on the wall. It's like, oh, wow, that's kind of touching. And then I thought about it. I'm like, wait a minute. Babe Ruth stopped playing with the Yankees in 1934. And the Yankees didn't have their first black player until 1950. So the only way this is even possible is in those like barnstorming leagues, like the Cuban leagues. Maybe Babe did play with black players then. Maybe the photos from them, but it seems that they're trying to indicate that they were all Yankees at the time.
No. They were playing against each other. And this happened. I just visited the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City. Highly suggest it. Next time you're in Kansas City, go get some burnt ends over at Arthur Bryant's and then go to the Negro League's Baseball Museum, which is right next to the Jazz Museum right there on 18th and Main. Anyway, the point is that the Negro Leagues would play exhibition in the off season. Like that was kind of like their preseason. They would play the Yankees. They would play, the traditionally white major leagues at the time. And, I just think of like great players like Josh Gibson, who was one of the best catchers to ever play the game. Like they're lost to history, and it's tough not to think about that.
I think that was a missed opportunity. When they find out, that he was a ball player, he knew, George Herman Ruth, he'd played with him. I was hoping that maybe it would go into a small lesson about the Negro Leagues. And hey, my records wouldn't have stood because I didn't play in the same leagues. So then when they come back each week, they're learning about the history of baseball.
Yeah.
Instead of this cheesy ass, I got hit in the head and went blind. I think that was a missed opportunity.
Agreed.
I didn't need this to be a big commentary on the Negro Leagues, but just a little grain of thought and to think about would have been nice.
I agree. There is a missed opportunity there. And I would have liked that because this movie is fun and it's nostalgic, and it would have been a really cool history lesson for kids growing up, especially in our era, to learn a little bit more about that. But over the next few years, the Sandlot kids do go their separate ways. Benny's exploit with the Beast earns him the nickname The Jet, and he goes on to play for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Scottie becomes a sports commentator and covers a game against the San Francisco Giants in which Benny successfully steals home. Celebrating his victory, the two exchange thumbs up. End movie.
Okay, it took me like an hour and 20-something minutes to finally feel something about this movie, but I admittedly did get emotional at the end. And I think it's just because I'm a sucker for those where are they now endings, where they like each kid vanishes one by one and they tell what their future held. Band of Brothers had a similar scene that like gutted me, the way they ended Band of Brothers. And when Richard Winters, who was like one of the main characters of Band of Brothers, when he actually died in 2011, I went back and watched the scene. I was like bawling for like a whole day. And like anytime anybody asked me why I was crying, I had to try to explain it to him. Guys, don't try to explain those things. It never works.
All right. Well, now it's the time of the podcast where we break out our Shat meters and give you our wipe scores. If you've never listened to the podcast before, Zero Wipes is a perfect movie. It's like the Wendy Peffercorn of movies. It's just absolutely perfect to where you will attempt to drown yourself in hopes of a mouth-to-mouth resuscitation kiss. 5 Wipes is it's the Beast version where it's just slobbery and messy everywhere and you're locked up and chained in a blind guy's backyard. That being said, Big D, we'll start with you. How many wipes would you give The Sandlot?
So I want to say, first off, I was not coming into this extremely excited. I didn't have too fond memories of it. I really didn't have any memories of it at all, other than the famous scenes you see in video clips and GIFs and memes. But I really liked it. And yes, it spoke to my specific upbringing in the suburbs in New York. So it had a nostalgic tie to me. I thought it was great for being everything I loved about being a kid. There was the adventure, like I said earlier, the treasure hunt, you being on your bikes, everything with your friends. It felt really good. Was it deep? Did it delve into topics of social commentary or anything? No, because it wasn't supposed to. It was a feel-good kids adventure from the viewpoint of a child. They didn't have stress. Their life involved the little playtime that they had going out. The summers seemed like they were forever. So for that, it was perfect. It was exactly what I remembered. I liked it more than some of the other kid movies that are iconic and had a stronger place in my memory. So for me, surprisingly, I think it is a one-wipe movie. It is a good, short, to the point. The movie goes by fast, and it did something that just jarred that memory of being a kid. And for the small time while I was watching it, I felt just happy and carefree. So for that, it's a one-wipe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that far off from you. As a middle-class white guy, fairy tale, that's what it is, right? For sure. And it's hard not to be nostalgic, especially growing up playing baseball. But that being said, there's really only 3 to 4 child actors that are worth a damn in a cast of child actors. And for that, it's not quite a one-wipe movie. I think there's better movies in this, but it's definitely a 1.5 wipe movie where it's enjoyable. It's that s'more that you make, you know, when you're feeling cold and you just want to feel warm inside and have something tasty, and you know it's not good for you, but damn it, it goes down smooth. So 1.5 wipes. That leaves you, Gene. How many wipes do you give The Sandlot?
Well, Raj, Big D mentioned that for these kids, it felt like summer went on forever. Well, for this adult, it felt like this movie went on forever.
Jesus.
I was bored from the beginning to end, and I'm a very hard person to bore. I kept checking my watch to see how much more of this I had to endure and just hoping that something would redeem this movie. The acting was amateurish. The writing was unimaginative and utterly predictable. There were a few like okay gags, even though I saw them coming from a mile away, and some sentimentality with the picture of Mr. Myrtle on the wall, and at the end scene with the thumbs up, you know, between Scottie Smalls and Benny the Jet. But mostly, I agree with you, Raj, it was whitewashed juvenile nostalgia. And I'm not afraid to admit that I loved this movie as a kid, but this is why we do this podcast, is to realize that things we liked as kids might not be that great. So I looked back at similar movies that bored me and went straight to Blade Runner, which was much longer, but also bored me in a similar fashion, where I was just like, when is this going to end? And I kind of had to calibrate based on that. For me, this is a 4-wipe movie.
Ooh. Oh, man. This is going to be one of those movies where people are going to send us in some letters. We're going to get some reviews. They're going to be mad because there's such an attachment to this, but that's why we do this movie, because we weight the average and then put it in the pantheon of Shat. So if we were to add 1 wipe, 1.5, and 4, and then divide by 3, how many wipes does this overall movie, The Sandlot, get?
Well, Raj, adding up the 1 wipe, the 1.5 wipes, and the 4 wipes, we get an average of 2.16 repeating wipes for The Sandlot.
And Big D, where does that put The Sandlot in the pantheon of Shat? If we had to put it on a shelf there, what would it be between?
Okay, so I don't think we're going to get a single letter of hate, other than the amount of times we said, you know, white guy porn or white guy nostalgia porn.
Yeah, we really got ourselves in a pickle here.
But if you see what this movie fucking tied, you couldn't have strategically placed it better. It is in the 52 spot. It is tied with 2 other coming of age like kid adventure movies, Home Alone and The Goonies.
Yeah,
and a baseball movie, Major League. So the 52 spot, that is a little bit better than Crimson Tide, Beverly Hills Cop, and it is a little worse than Rocky IV, Point Break, Demolition Man. So I think it's in a good zone.
Yeah, I think that feels right. I feel like it's a strike. We put it right down the middle where it should be. I think Major League's a better movie than this, definitely by far. But you know, you guys didn't like
equally
it as much as I
racist
did.
For sure.
It is definitely equally as racist.
You're going to get us in a pickle. Let's stop with all the fucking PC fucking.
We're going to get out of the pickle here, guys.
Yeah, get out of the pickle.
At least Major League didn't abuse dogs.
It's true.
It also treated women like shit, though.
Oh.
I mean, but that's what happens in Major League Baseball, especially in the 80s. Everyone was on cocaine, having affairs with other baseball players' wives. Well, now it's time for the podcast where we break out our shout-outs. Gene, what's a shout-out?
Raj, a shout out is our way of saying thank you for visiting shatthemovies.com. If you'd like to get your name on the podcast, just go to shatthemovies.com, put your name in any of the slide outs that feature shout outs, and we will read your name in the coming weeks. This week's shout outs go out to Joe King, Clifford Peach, Gareth, the Black Swede, Kyle, B. Who, Andy, sorry I forgot to do this for your birthday, Marshall, Mario Antoine Evans, Matt, Mario Battistella, Benjamin, Denny, Michael, Ethan McNew, Kay Pickok, Nathan the Dog from the Netherlands, Southwick, and Sandy. So everyone, thank you so much for visiting shatthemovies.com to get your shout outs. And thank you so much for listening. Again, if you'd like to get your shout out read on the podcast, just go to shatthemovies.com, fill out the shout out box, and we'll be happy to read it for you.
And Big D, we are still clearing out our garage of all our commissions. We are doing another commission next week. We're going to play the trailer at the end of this, but do we want to give a little hint on what it might be?
Oh, yes, I do. This one was commissioned by one of our listeners in Norway, Per, last name T. And this is going to be a fucking iconic episode. This is going to get people excited. Got me excited. I'm so excited. I'm going to try my my trailer voice one more time to read this. It normally doesn't go well, but we'll see what it does.
Oh, jeez.
In 1997, a major war between the United States and the Soviet Union is concluding, and the entire island of Manhattan has been converted into a giant maximum security prison. When Air Force One is hijacked and crashes into the island, the president is taken hostage by a group of inmates. Snake Plissken, a former Special Forces soldier turned criminal, is recruited to retrieve the president in exchange for his own freedom. And this was commissioned by Per from Norway. It was released in 1981. It is a John Carpenter classic, and I'm fucking stoked. Stay to the trailer and hear what it is. But if you don't know what it is, you better check yourself. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, this will be a fun one. I'm excited for this. There's a lot of
so much good stuff.
We've done how many? I feel like the movie has. This podcast is maturing. At one point, we were the John Hughes podcast. Now we're the John Carpenter podcast. We should just call it Shat on the Johns. Like, I feel like that is, Shat on the John. There you go.
Yeah, fuck SEO and branding.
Exactly.
That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media, and share with a friend. We're everywhere, including Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. Just search for Shat the Movies. Our Facebook is shatthemovies.com/Facebook, our website where you can give a commission and check out all of our previous episodes is shatthemovies.com. If you want to email us, you can do that at hosts@shatthemovies.com. You can donate PayPal, Venmo, or shop on Amazon. You can find all of our affiliate links on shatthemovies.com, as well as a survey to help us find advertisers so that we can make money and pay for our servers and stuff like that, and not have to rely on all your wonderful commissions. If you go to shatthemovies.com/survey, there you will find a very easy, quick, simple one. What's the latest? Gene, you're handling that. Do we have the CBD oil or Quip toothbrush yet?
I haven't heard anything back about Feels. If they want to get on this podcast, that we'd love to have them. Trojan is the whale that I really wanted to land, but they wanted to do Westworld, which unfortunately isn't going to be around for a while. Yeah. So Trojan, if you're listening, when Westworld rolls around, or The Watchmen, or the movies, we'd be happy to slip inside you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that concludes this week's episode. Be sure to follow us everywhere, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. And if you do, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. That does help the podcast grow. Again, you can check out our sister podcasts like Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and True Detective on our website, shatontv.com. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert, Gene Pickle Lyons, I'm Roger Roeper. Be sure to join us next week for another review of the following commissioned movie. Thank you so much for listening. Take care, good night, and good luck.
New York, 1997. The entire city is a walled maximum security prison. The bridges are mined. The rivers are patrolled. And the United States Police Force has everything under control. From New York, the high adventure of the future. One man must go in where no man has ever gotten out. And if he comes back alone, his nightmare has just begun.
Who are you?
John Carpenter's Escape from New York.
Heard you were dead.
This stuff is like gold around here, you know.
John Carpenter's Escape from New York, the greatest escape of them all, is about to blow the future apart.